Hello, my name's Aviva, and today I wanted to go through my Goodreads account and see which are the highest rated books I have read according to them. I have done a video very similar to this in the past. I went through all of the lowest rated books that I've read according to Goodreads, and if you did miss that video and you wanted to check it out, I will make sure to have it linked down in the description below because it was actually very interesting to see that because I had rated some books like 4 or 5 stars that actually have a very low average rating. So I'm curious to see the opposite of that and if, I'm going to agree with all of like the very popular, highly rated books on Goodreads. And I haven't looked at this list yet, but I have a very weird feeling it's just going to be like Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, but we're going to keep going and we're just going to skim through all of the very with all the books that I would expect to be on this highest rated list because obviously they're there for a reason. But hopefully we're going to come across some very random ones. So basically I have my computer right in front of me and I'm just on Goodreads. I'm at all of my read books and then I'm just sorting them through average rating on highest to least, and then we're just going to go down the list. So with that said, I'm going to start recording my screen and we'll get started. So happens to be first up is Some Kind of Perfect by Kristen Becker-Ritchie, and it has an average rating of 4.7 stars, and I had given it a 5-star rating. And I'm not necessarily surprised to see that this is very highly rated, but I am surprised that it is the top book that I have read that is the highest rated book or whatever you want to call it. But basically this is the last book in the Krista and Becker-Ritchie Addicted/Calloway Sisters series. And I really did love it, but it's literally just an epilogue book. So, I guess people who are that into the series do not have a lot to complain about by the time they get to this book because all they're doing is enjoying a little bit more time with their favorite characters. So it's not very surprising, but somehow I am surprised that this is the number one. So, yeah, that is that. Anyway, next up is the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey, and it has an average rating of 4.67, and I had given it an average rating of 5 stars. So it's technically 5 novellas, but I had read it as if it was just one very large book, and I really did enjoy it when I read it. It's just a Criminal Minds sort of romance book. All you're doing is following this girl who is a serial killer, and she falls in love with an FBI agent who is currently tracking her down, and I absolutely loved it. I thought that it was so consuming, if that makes sense. I was just pulled in right away, and I literally didn't put it down until I was finished it. I just wanted to keep knowing what was happening. And I really did enjoy it. And I know that last year, I think it was January or something, this book completely spiked and every single person read it. And I really didn't see a lot of bad reviews about it or anything like that. But for some reason, I still am pretty surprised that this is the second highest rated book that I read. I literally thought number one was going to be I don't know, Kingdom of Ash or something like that. So this is honestly really surprising. And I'm trying to think of did I really not hear anybody say any bad things about it? I honestly cannot remember someone being oh yeah, this was totally just very meh for me. I really do remember seeing a lot of people absolutely love it. So I guess it's not surprising that a lot of people just gave it a 5 star. So whatever, that is the second highest rated book that I have read. And I happen to completely agree that it is a really great book. So anyway, next up is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which has an average rating of a 4.62, and I did not rate it. And that is mostly because I have not read this series since I was 12 years old or anything like that. And I actually didn't have a Goodreads when I was reading that as a child. And I have been thinking about doing a reread of the Harry Potter series overall. So maybe I will give it a rating this time around, but I'm not surprised if I gave it a 5 stars. I absolutely love the Harry Potter series, and this is the last one in the series. So I'm really not surprised that all of those dedicated fans basically gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, that is not surprising. Anyway, next up is A Court of Mist and Fury, has an average rating of 4.62, and very much not surprised to see that there. And I'm actually very happy that out of all of the Throne of Glass books, this is the number one. This is the highest one that we're seeing because I have read all of them and this is my absolute favorite. So it actually kind of makes me very happy to see it at the top. But anyway, after that we have Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, and it has an average rating of 4.61, and I'm very happy to see this very high up as well. Even though this isn't necessarily my favorite book from the entire Throne of Glass series, I'm not surprised to see it at the top because by the time everybody got to the end of the series, they're just completely invested in the characters, and obviously they're going to give it 5 stars, so people were just happy to get the ending. So I'm not surprised that that is very high up. But anyway, after that, we have Crooked Kingdoms by Lee Bardugo, which is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, and has an average rating of 4.61. And I did give it a rating of 5 stars when I read it, but I did read it maybe like 2-3 years ago. Like I read it like right when I started like reading again as an adult. And I do remember really enjoying it, but I wasn't like absolutely obsessed with it, especially not like in comparison to all of the books that like we're in middle of talking about. Like all the ones on top of that, I do not expect this one to be the next one. So I am a little bit surprised that this does have a very, very large average rating, but I know that a lot of people do love this book. And what's funny is that I think that I actually enjoyed book 1 a little bit more, like Six of Crows. I liked more than Crooked Kingdoms, but I know that that is a very unpopular opinion. So I guess it's not weird to see this one before seeing Six of Crows. So anyway, yeah, that's interesting. And I'm still surprised that this is like the top of the top. Like, have I not read better books than this? Like, have I not read books that like have a larger, highest rating? This is a little bit interesting, but at the same time, I'm not really surprised. So whatever, it is what it is. But anyway, after that, we have another Harry Potter, another Harry Potter, another Harry Potter, and then Cassandra Clare. So this is the third book in the in the Infernal Devices series. It has an average rating of 4.56. I gave it 5 stars, and I kind of really do agree with this. I am, again, a little bit surprised that this is the first Cassandra Clare book that we're seeing. Third book in the Infernal Devices. I really did like this series. I liked the book overall, even though I did just finish reading like all of the Shadowhunter books again, minus this series, because I wasn't so down to jump back into like the historicalness. So I reread all of the Shadowhunter books minus this series and then the Last Hour series. But now that I'm seeing that this is the top one, maybe I just should jump back into it anyway. I don't know. I could still go all the way back and reread the series, so maybe I will soon. But either way, I do know that this is a very loved book overall from all of the Shadowhunter books, but I'm a little bit surprised, again, to see that this is the top of the top one. Like A Court of Mist and Fury, I was not surprised to see that that was number 1. This one, I'm a little bit surprised, even though it was a great book. But like, what would I expect the top of the top book to be from all of the Shadowhunter books? Like maybe, I don't know, the first book in the Mortal Instruments series. Like I feel like that is just like where it all started, so maybe it should have a really, really high rating. Or, I mean, I personally love the Dark Artifices series, but I don't know, I guess it's really hard to tell because I know that a lot of people really love like different books for different reasons. So whatever, this is it. But anyway, very interesting. After that, we have Empire of Storms. So we first had Kingdom of Ash, and then we had Empire of Storms. So not super interesting. And what happens to be is I could see right under here is Queen of Shadows, and it's literally different from like 0.1 of a review. And happens to be I do like Queen of Shadows a little bit more than I do like Empire of Storms, but it's so close that like whatever, it is what it is. And I'm just happy to see that it is averagely very much liked. So yeah. Anyway, after that, we have House of Hades by Rick Riordan. It has an average rating of 4.55 stars. I gave it 4 stars, and it's the 4th book in the Heroes of Olympus series. And the thing is that I read these like all mushed together. Like I read all the Percy Jackson books like back to back to back, and all via audio. So I don't really remember the differences between whichever book, but I'm not surprised to see that a Rick Riordan book in general is like high up on the highest rated books on Goodreads. So not surprising there. And I still really did enjoy the book. So that is that. But anyway, after that, we have Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh, and it has an average rating of 4.5 stars. I gave it a 4 stars, and I really did give it like a 3.75, but I have rounded it up to 4 stars. And I'm actually extremely surprised by this because I personally loved Binding 13, which is the book that comes right before this, a lot more than Keeping 13. So I'm really interested as to why this one has a higher rating than the first one, because I thought the first one was so much better. Like the second book was just like, you know, closing up all the stuff that started in book 1, and I just really liked the beginning rather than like, you know, seeing everything conclude, if that makes sense. But I guess it makes sense because a lot of people are just happy to see characters get their happily ever after, so they'll rate it higher. But at the same time, I am a little bit sad that Binding 13 wasn't before this one. But anyway, after that, we have another Percy Jackson book. So this is the 5th book in the regular Percy Jackson series. I really did enjoy the series overall. So I'm not surprised. But anyway, after that, we have House of Sky and Breath, second book in the Crescent City series, and it has an average rating of 4.52. And honestly, I am a little bit disappointed at the general population of this, because I know that a lot of people just like they see Sarah J. Maas and they automatically give it 5 stars. I personally absolutely hated this book. I hated so much about it. Like, I can sit here for half an hour and just share with you all of my thoughts on how I think that this is Sarah J. Maas's worst book. So I am very, very sad to see that this has a higher rating than all of the other books that she's read. Like, literally, where's the rest of the Throne of Glass series? Like, why is it not higher than this one? But whatever, we're just gonna move on. I don't need to bash it for like hours and hours, because I've already made like bashing videos on it in the past. So whatever. Anyway, another Rick Riordan book, then another Calloway sister book. So this is from the Addicted / Calloway sister series. This is Long Way Down. So it is Daisy and Wright's book, and it has an average rating of 4.52. And honestly, I'm pretty happy about that, because I remember when I was reading the series, when I got up to this book, I was like, okay, this is my newest favorite book from everything that I've read so far. But then I did get to Addicted for Now, and I really enjoyed that book a lot more than this book. Like, I just loved seeing Lily and Lo's like conclusion book, even though I absolutely loved Daisy and Wright's book. So I'm not surprised by this, because I do know that Daisy and Wright is like a very beloved, couple from the series. But I personally did like Addicted after Did I say Addicted for Now? I meant Addicted After All, because I was just looking at it. Is 2 things down from there. So not surprised to see that they are very, very close together. I guess a few people do like Long Way Down a little bit more, but I think that they are equal to me, because 2 different characters, and I liked each book for what it was in its own right. Does that make sense? But they're so freaking similar, like literally like 0.1 of a difference. So we can't really judge the general population here. So good choices on them. But anyway, in between those 2 books was Hollow Pox by Jessica Townsend, and this is one of the books from the Morrigan Crow series, like the Trials of Morrigan Crow. I don't remember which one this is. I think that this is the 3rd one. And when I read it, I remember really enjoying it. The thing is I gave it 4 stars, probably mostly because it was like middle grade instead of like, my regular YA or adult sort of books. I had read it because I heard good things about it anyway, even though like middle grade isn't really my thing, but I really did enjoy it for what it was. And I feel like if I was an actual middle grader person, like this would be like up there with like Harry Potter level books. Like I remember the story being like absolutely amazing. It just like, it wasn't super for me. So I remember like, I just didn't give it 5 stars because I wasn't like that obsessed with it, but it was still a good story. So not surprised to see it up here, even though for some reason, like I feel like there should be other books that I've read that just have a really, really higher rating. Like I don't know what those books are, but I am somewhat surprised that I haven't come across something like very random yet. But anyway, after that, Addicted After All, and then we have Mistborn. Okay, you see, so this, I'm not surprised by this, but I was waiting for something a little bit along these lines. So the 3rd book in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson has an average rating of 4.51. I gave it 4 stars, mostly because I loved book 1. Like The Final Empire, I think is what it was called. Like I was obsessed with it. But then as we got later into the series, like it just turned into like war things, and honestly, I started getting a little bit confused. So I just remember by the end of it, I was slightly lost, and that's probably why I gave it 4 stars. I honestly can't remember though, because I did read it like 2 years ago, but I'm not surprised to see this high up here. But this is something like, this is what I was looking for. I was looking for something like a little bit, I don't know. I was looking for something like this, and I'm not surprised to see it on this list. And that is that, even though I will say I did like book 1 more than book 3, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, let's move on. So another Harry Potter book, not surprised. Another book from the Trials of Morrigan Crow. So this is book number 2. And again, I gave it 4 stars, probably for the same reason that I gave the other one 4 stars. But either way, I just know that like, if you were younger and you like Harry Potter, you should definitely check this book out. So I'm not surprised to see that it is very, very popular. But anyway, Say You Swear, average 4.5 rating. I gave it 3 stars, but really more like a 2.5 stars. And this is what I was looking for. I was looking to be a little bit surprised, because why is this random ass book up here with all of the other like perfect books? And the thing is that I know that a lot of people really loved this book, and I'm not necessarily judging them, but this book just was not written for me. It was a new adult, it was a love triangle, and it had something that I don't want to say for spoiler reasons, but the thing that happens at the end, once I read it, I realized that like I am just not into that type of element in my like books. And I think that, it's not really in books often, so I guess people were very like wowed by it and thought that it was something different, but I just was not impressed by this book whatsoever. It was a very thick book and I just did not like it for a lot of reasons. So I am a little bit sad that it has such an average high rating, because I feel like this is one of those ones where it's just like it has a high rating for the hype versus it being like an actual amazing book. But I will say that if you were like an actual teenager and you read it like at the right time in your life, I can see it being amazing. I feel like if I read this book like 6 years ago, I would have loved it as well, but it's just not my type of book anymore. So yeah, that is why I personally did not love it. But anyway, after that we have A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Average rating 4.49. I gave it a 3 stars, and honestly, looking back at it now, I should have given it more like a 2 stars. And I am a little bit surprised that this is more loved than the first book in the like From Blood and Ash series or something like that, because I thought that that book was way better. But like whatever, I personally am no longer a fan of Jennifer L. Armentrout's work, especially this one, because I felt like it was just like a carbon copy of like From Blood and Ash. So anyway, I hated this book. A little bit sad to see it high up on this list, but like whatever. Anyway, Six of Crows. Okay, a 4.49, and I gave it 5 stars. So yeah, I'm a little sad that it is this much more down, but really like we're just talking about like the smallest of averages. Like this is a 4.49 and we started at a 4.46. So this is all basically even, but either way, I'm happy to see this on this list. Next up is Unraveling Him, the Bailey Brothers' third book by Claire Kinsley. It has an average rating of 4.48. I gave it a 3.75. I upped it to like four stars, but this is very random. You see, like this is what I was interested in, to see like what is like very randomly highly rated. And I personally loved the second book in the series a lot more than this one. So I'm a little bit sad to see that this one is on top of that one, because I thought that the second book was like an easy 5 stars. But I guess a lot of people liked this one a lot, but it personally was not for me. A little bit of instant love, a little bit of like I didn't really like the main girl character, a lot of other stuff that I didn't love about it, but either way, it is on this list. So very interesting stuff. Anyway, next up we have House of Earth and Blood. I liked this one in the moment, but once I read book 2, I was no longer in love with book 1, and I don't want to say anything like too like seriously, because who knows what's gonna happen when the next book comes out. But like I honestly wish that like this series didn't exist, so that I don't have to even bother rereading it when the next book comes out and things start getting really complicated. So whatever, I liked the book in the moment, but I no longer am a fan of it, and I wouldn't give it 5 stars anymore. After that, we have The Takeover, which is the second book by the Mile High Club companion series by T.L. Swan. Average 4.48 rating. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I upped it to 5. And I really did enjoy this book in the moment, but I think that even like looking back at it now, I'd give it more of like a 3.75 to a 4 stars, because I just remember having a lot of really fun moments in this book, but overall it wasn't a very seamless read for me. Like I remember it being really hard to get into, and then I remember like really enjoying the middle, but like the end was a little bit whatever. So I don't know why I gave it 4.5 stars. It was a very in the moment 4.5 stars. Really, now that I'm saying it out loud, I feel like it's more like a 3.5 stars, but it is high up on this list. So yeah, it is what it is. Let's do a couple more, because I feel like I've been sitting here for a while and I literally could sit here forever, and we're still only up to like 4.48. So I feel like it's just going to go on for a very long time. So let's do just a couple more, and then I'll say goodbye to you. So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, not surprised to see that there. Binding 13. So this is the first book. I'm surprised that it is so much like lower down on this list. But like I said, I like this one a lot more than the Keeping 13, the second book in the series. But I'm still happy that it has a very high average rating. So that is that. Anyway, next up we have Redeemed, 4th book in the Dirty Air companion series. 4.47 rating. I gave it a 3.75, rounded it up to 4, and I am not surprised to see this be the first one from the series on there, because I do know that it is general consensus that this is the best book in the series, even though I just didn't absolutely love it. Like there was a handful of stuff that wasn't like, it didn't like knock it out of the park for me, and my personal favorite from this series is still the first book, which was Throttled. So not surprised to see this here, but personally was not my favorite out of the 4 books. So yeah, that is that. But anyway, after that, we have A Chain of Iron, second book in the Last Hour series by Cassandra Clare. 4.47 rating, and I gave it 3 stars. I did not love this book. But I do know that a lot of people did, so whatever, it is what it is. Anyway, after that, we have Drive by Kate Stewart, 4.46 rating. I gave it 5 stars, and I am a little bit happy to see it up here because you know what? At the end of the day, I really did love this book in the moment that I read it. So I am happy that a lot of other people liked it too. But anyway, with that said, we have another Mistborn book. We have another Percy Jackson book. We have another Throne of Glass book. Then we have Darling Venom. So this is by Parker S. Huntington. Average rating of 4.46. I gave it an average rating of 4.5, even though I rounded it up to 5 stars. And I really did enjoy it in the moment. And I know that a lot of people did love it at the time that they read it. So I'm not really surprised to see that it has a really, really good rating. There wasn't that much wrong with the book that people should really complain about. So I'm happy that a lot of people generally liked it. But after that, we have Wrecked Palace by Catherine Cowles, average rating of 4.46. And what's funny is that I have read maybe like 2 or 3 books by this author so far, and I'm pretty sure that this was my favorite out of all of the ones that I've read. So I am happy to see that this is the top one out of all of the ones that I've read, if that makes sense. So yeah, I gave it an average rating of 4.25. I gave it a 4.25. It has an average rating of 4.46. So I was pretty close on my rating over there. But anyway, after that, we're just going to do 2 more. So Fuel the Fire by, Kristen Becker-Ritchie, 3rd book in the Calloway Sisters series. This is the Fuel the Fire. This is the 2nd book for Connor and Rose. And I guess a lot of people really liked it. So not really surprised to see it there. Very, very popular series. And lastly, we're going to do House in the Cerulean Sea, which has an average rating of 4.45. I gave it 4 stars. And I actually recently read this book. This book was on my TBR for maybe like 2 years or so. Like when it was very, very popular, like way back when, I just like added it to my library and then I never got to it. But I finally did get to it. I think literally like last week or so. But basically, I really did enjoy this book, and I know that a lot of people enjoyed it as well. And I honestly did not have I didn't really have anything to complain about the book, except for the fact that like I wasn't like swoon worthy in love with it. That's why I gave it like a 4 stars. Like I'd probably give it more like a 4.5 stars, but like I enjoyed it for what it was. I really, really liked it in the moment, but like I wasn't like thinking about it like after the fact. I'm just like, oh yeah, that was a great time. That's something I would definitely like, revisit in the future. So not surprised to see that it had a really, really, really high rating. So yeah, with that said, that is all the ones that I'm going to be going through for the highest rated books that I have read on Goodreads. But either way, with that said, feel free to leave a comment down below if you have anything you want to add. But if you did enjoy watching this video, then please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed, and make sure to check out the lowest rated books that I've read according to Goodreads. The link again is in the description below in case you missed that video when I had posted it way back when. But either way, with that said, thank you again so much for taking the time to watch my video, and until next time, enjoy reading.